Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Disasters After Dark. Tonight we're diving into Pompeii, the city that vanished, a sleep story. So get cozy, get comfortable, and get ready for a peaceful night's sleep. Before you close your eyes, it would mean the world if you liked this video and subscribed. That way, you'll never miss a sleepy disaster story. And if you're still awake, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from or how your day went. The city is still. The air is thick with the breath of something ancient, something waiting. You stand at the edge of a time long buried, where footsteps echo down empty stone streets. Once, Pompeii was a place of color, of laughter, of ordinary days. Now it sleeps beneath layers of ash and silence. Tonight, we return to that day, to the hour when the sky darkened and the earth opened its jaws. Let your mind wander through the quiet ruins. Let the past whisper you to sleep. The city's walls are covered in words, jokes, insults, poems, love notes. They paint a portrait of a people not unlike us, ordinary, flawed, vibrant. Health to you, traveler, reads one. Take your time, says another. And elsewhere, if you're looking for a good time, ask for Julia. She's always available. Life hums with all its messy beauty, and beneath it all, the mountain looms. Mount Vesuvius rises like a sleeping god. Green at its base, quiet and distant, it seems more backdrop than threat. Most who live here do not even know it is a volcano. Its last eruption was over 1,000 years ago. To them, it is simply the mountain, a part of the scenery, a place where grapes grow sweet in blackened soil. The idea that it could destroy everything, unthinkable. Down near the baths, steam curls from heated pools. Men recline on marble benches, gossiping in soft voices. A young man speaks of gladiator matches at the amphitheater. Another boasts of a new trinket he's brought from Rome, a golden ring shaped like a serpent. Laughter echoes from the changing rooms, then fades into mist. At the training grounds nearby, the clang of wooden swords rings out. Gladiators train in the dirt, their muscles strain, dust rising with every movement. Some are born slaves, others choose this path for glory. Blood will spill in the arena by week's end, but today there is only sweat and sunlight. In a quiet lane, a woman arranges vases outside her shop. Each one hand-painted, each one unique. She hums to herself, unaware that her voice may be the last to grace this corner for 2,000 years. Her vases will be found centuries later, frozen in time, beneath ash and stone. Her name will be lost, but her touch will remain. As the afternoon drifts in, heat settles over the city like a blanket. Shutters are drawn. Shops close for the midday pause. The streets quiet. Only the cicadas sing now, a lullaby of summer. Somewhere, a cat sleeps in the window of a villa. Somewhere else, a boy carves his name into the wall of a bathhouse, not knowing it will outlive empires. Pompeii breathes, and time marches forward. The sky remains blue, cloudless. The sea is calm. There is nothing to suggest that this day is different from the one before it. Nothing to warn of what's coming. But in the deep places of the earth, something is stirring. Pressure builds. Beneath the calm, something ancient begins to wake. The sun begins to slip lower in the sky, casting long shadows between the villas and streets of Pompeii. Children return home, their sandals dusty, their laughter quieter now. Vendors pack up their stalls, tying canvas flaps and sweeping away fruit peels left behind. In the forum, Pigeons gather on statues. A priestess extinguishes a flame at the temple of Apollo. Another day is drawing to a close, one of thousands that came before, and one of the very last. But something is different. That morning, some say the earth trembled, not with violence, but with a strange, brief shudder, a flicker beneath the feet, a pause in conversation, a moment where the birds stopped singing and then resumed. It is not the first time. 17 years earlier, in 62 CE, a great earthquake damaged much of the city. Temples cracked, homes collapsed. Since then, tremors have come and gone. Repairs are still ongoing. It is easy now to dismiss a little shake. Easy to say. The gods are stirring and return to folding laundry. Earthquakes are part of life here. Just another nuisance. The mountain still sleeps, but deep below, the earth is swelling. Magma pushes upward through ancient rock. Gases build, trapped and desperate for escape. Vesuvius does not rage. It does not roar. Not yet. That evening, some dogs refuse to eat. Birds fly inland, away from the coast. The animals know. But people do not always listen to silence. At the amphitheater, men rehearse for an upcoming show. A lion paces in its cage, agitated. In a villa on the edge of town, a woman writes a letter by lamplight. She dips her stylus in ink, her fingers smudged with charcoal. She writes to her sister in Rome about the figs, the weather, the cracks that have appeared in the kitchen wall. Nothing serious, she writes. We are fine. She does not finish the letter. The next morning, the sky's a little hazier. A faint scent, sharp and strange, hangs in the air. Sulfur. But it is easily dismissed. There are latrines nearby. The baker's kiln sometimes smokes. The city breathes its excuses. That afternoon, a small tremor strikes again. In the temple of Isis, offerings spill to the floor. A bowl of milk cracks. A servant boy frowns at the ceiling. It feels like the walls are breathing. But still, no one leaves. Life continues because it always has. That night, a group of travelers arrives from Herculaneum. One of them is a young boy named Gaius. He has never seen Pompeii before. He watches the city from a window, sees lanterns flickering along the streets, hears voices and laughter rising in the cool air. He thinks it's the most beautiful place in the world. He doesn't know he will never see his home again. In the morning, he and his family will climb the steps of the Forum, visit the bakery and pause near the fountain to admire the mosaics, and then the sky will begin to fall. The final warning comes just before noon. The ground splits open, not with a quake, but with a breath, a sound like thunder, but deeper. Vesuvius erupts for the first time in over 1,000 years. But this is not the main event, not yet. What follows is a column of ash and pumice that stretches into the sky like a dark tree, casting a shadow over the city. Many see it, few understand. They gather in the streets. Some are afraid, some are fascinated, some still believe it will pass. The ash begins to fall like snow. A boy holds out his hand. The dust lands soft against his skin, then another and another. The white streets turn gray. Pumice stones begin to rain down, light at first, then heavier. Roof tiles rattle, dogs howl, chickens scatter. But still, many remain. They gather belongings, cover their mouths with cloth, and move toward the harbor. Some pray, some argue, some sit in silence, waiting. They do not know that this is only the beginning. The mountain is awake now, and it is far from finished. Pompeii stands beneath a falling sky. The city is no longer waiting. It is suspended, caught between what was and what is about to be lost. The morning had begun like any other, a little hazy, a little warm, but by midday the city's sky had changed. What was once soft blue became a strange, shifting gray, then darker, then black. From the summit of Vesuvius, a pillar of ash rose like a phantom tree, miles into the sky, curling, reaching, twisting into the heavens. A pine-shaped cloud, Pliny would later write, wide at the top, thin at the base, rising with such force that it could be seen for miles across the sea. But in Pompeii, it was not distant. It loomed overhead. It spread like a veil over the city, a shroud. And then the stones began to fall. Not fire, not yet, but pumice, light, sharp-edged volcanic stone flung into the air by the force of the blast. At first, they bounced harmlessly off rooftops, but quickly they grew in size, then in weight. Roofs began to crack, tiles shattered. People who had sought shelter indoors soon realized the danger was above them now. Ash fell so thick that it turned the streets to darkness by mid-afternoon. Torches were lit. Hands reached blindly in the ash-choked air. Parents wrapped cloths around the faces of their children. The wind turned bitter and hot. Breathing became difficult. Some tried to flee. They made their way toward the harbor, toward the sea. But the air was thick, vision limited, and above them, the cloud loomed still, churning and glowing from within, casting an eerie, otherworldly light. Day and night had switched places, the sun gone, the mountain roaring, and no one could hear the gods anymore. In the forum, a marble statue fell. A cart overturned, spilling amphorae onto the stone, wine mixed with ash in slow-spreading pools. A temple roof gave way. Screams were muffled by falling rock. The once busy marketplace was now a field of broken beams and dust. In one villa, a woman wrote frantically on a wax tablet trying to record what was happening, perhaps for her family, perhaps for the gods. She never finished the sentence. Elsewhere, slaves and nobles alike crowded under archways, clutching household treasures, amulets, sleeping infants. No one knew what to do. There had never been a disaster like this in living memory. There were no guides, no orders, just stone falling from the sky and silence thick with dread. But still, this was not the end, because beneath the pumice and the ash and the darkness, the pressure was growing. The mountain was not done. Around midnight, the column of ash collapsed. It could no longer support itself. And in that moment, the pyroclastic surges began. Not fire, not lava, but a wall of gas, rock, and ash moving at the speed of a hurricane. Over 700 degrees Celsius, hotter than fire. It swept down the mountain in total silence until it reached the first homes on Pompeii's outskirts. And then everything it touched stopped moving. The heat was so intense it turned bone to dust. So fast most victims didn't even have time to breathe. Bodies curled in defensive postures, hands over mouths, children shielded by parents, lovers frozen mid-embrace. Even animals were captured mid-step. Some dogs were still chained to walls, their outlines preserved in the ash where their bodies once lay. The surges came in waves, 5, maybe 6, each stronger than the last, each erasing more of what had come before. Homes collapsed, temples shattered, the harbor vanished beneath clouds of dust. By dawn, nothing moved. Pompeii was gone, not buried by earth, not swallowed by sea, but suspended in time, in ash, in silence, as if someone had whispered hush, and the entire city had obeyed. Centuries would pass before anyone returned. And even then, they would not believe what they'd find. The morning never came. Not truly. In Pompeii, there was no sunrise, only a sky of dust and smoke, a world cloaked in darkness and a silence so deep it rang in the ears. It was the second day, the final day. Somewhere beneath the ruins, a clock would have struck 8, but no one heard it. By now, the city was already half buried. Roofs had collapsed. Walls had fallen. The streets were filled with pumice stones and drifting clouds of ash. The few who still breathed did so with difficulty, their mouths covered, their eyes watering, their lungs filling slowly with dust. Some tried to flee once more, stepping over bodies, calling names into the smoke. Others stayed inside, praying, whispering, waiting, hoping for a lull, hoping the mountain would sleep again. But then the sky changed. The cloud above Pompeii, that towering pillar of ash, began to collapse. Slowly at first, then all at once. The column folded in on itself like a wave. It broke apart with a roar, the sound of a mountain exhaling, the sound of time ending. A surge of molten gas, ash, and volcanic stone rushed down the slope at hundreds of kilometers per hour. A wall of destruction, unstoppable, unseen, and so very quiet. This was not lava. Lava is slow, predictable, something you can outrun. This was different. A pyroclastic surge, hotter than fire, heavier than air. It moved like water, but burned like the sun. When it reached the city, it erased everything. Entire buildings crumbled in its path. Glass melted, bricks shattered, and the people, they didn't run. They didn't have time. Many were found curled into corners in rooms with no exit, their hands over their faces, their clothing still intact, but their bodies turned to ash within their outlines. The heat struck so fast it froze them mid-breath. In one room, a group of people huddled together, arms around each other, their eyes closed. Centuries later, their shapes would still be visible, carved in negative space, in hollow stone and silence. The city fell beneath wave after wave of scorching ash. First, the outskirts, then the forum, then the harbor. Boats still tied to the docks vanished in the dust. Bodies of animals collapsed mid-stride. Fountains were silenced. Statues cracked, their marble skin blistering in the heat. And the mountain didn't stop. It breathed destruction for hours. The sky above flickered red and orange and black, as though the sun had set forever. Far away across the bay, Pliny the Younger watched the disaster unfold. He wrote, "Darkness fell, not the dark of a moonless night or a cloudy one, but as if the lamp had been put out in a closed room." He was 17. He never forgot. When it was over, the mountain fell silent. No one knew how many had died. No one even knew what lay beneath the ash. The outlines of a city remained, half buried, still smoldering, hidden from the world for nearly 2,000 years. Pompeii was gone, but it was not lost. In time, the ash cooled. Seeds sprouted where houses once stood. The world moved on. Rome rose, then fell. Empires came and went, and beneath it all, Pompeii slept, intact, waiting. It would be centuries before anyone would dig deep enough to find the bodies beneath the ash, to touch the walls still painted with color, to read the graffiti still scrawled by forgotten hands. I was here. Don't trust Rufus. Love conquers all. The fire in the sky had taken everything, and yet somehow it preserved it too. Pompeii remains one of the greatest disasters in human history, but it is also one of the most beautiful ghosts. The ash has settled. The sky is quiet, The mountain sleeps again, but the city beneath it does not stir. For days, the landscape was unrecognizable. What once bustled with life, laughter in the forum, children racing through alleyways, the calls of market vendors, was now nothing more than a gray plain. Ash, meters thick, covered every surface. There were no rooftops, no trees, no streets, just the silence of stone. Birds returned first, flying low, confused by the shape of the world. Rain fell and darkened the ash. Time passed, grass began to grow, and the city was forgotten. For centuries, Pompeii lay hidden. Its name faded from maps. Stories of a city swallowed by fire became legend, or were confused with others lost to time. Vesuvius remained, its slopes green once more, its secrets buried deep. But Pompeii was not gone. It was perfectly preserved, not by intention, but by tragedy. The ash had sealed every room, protected every mural, frozen every object, every moment, as if in amber. Bowls still sat on tables. Coins lay scattered on floors. Loaves of bread remained in ovens, burned black but still whole. A dog's final twist of agony left an impression in the stone. A woman's braid still visible in the void her body once filled. Time had not erased Pompeii, it had paused it. And so, the city waited. In the 1700s, diggers searching for marble struck something unexpected. Walls, paintings, strange hollow spaces in the earth. They poured plaster into those voids, and what emerged were the shapes of people. Caught mid-fall, mid-sleep, mid-breath, ghosts made solid once more. Archaeologists uncovered streets, forums, theaters, baths, frescoes still bright with pigment, mosaics still gleaming under layers of dust. A city from the past, revealed to the world like a time capsule cracked open. They found jokes on the walls, names carved into doorways, menus scribbled beside taverns, and in all of it, life, so much life. The human fingerprints of a place long thought lost. Pompeii is more than a ruin. It is a frozen memory. A place where the ancient and the now exist side by side, where the footsteps of the dead still echo in empty halls. Today you can walk those streets. You can stand in the same bathhouses, sit on the stone benches, peer into kitchens where the last meals were prepared. And if you are quiet, if you listen closely, you might hear something, a whisper, a laugh, the sigh of a world that once was and somehow still is. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept beneath its blanket of ash. No one knew what lay beneath. Just whispers, just stories. A city lost, a name forgotten, a silence waiting to be broken. Then, in 1748, workers digging a well struck something solid. It wasn't rock, it was a wall, then another, then a mosaic, then a painting, a face still gazing from the past, eyes that had not seen daylight in nearly 2 millennia. Pompeii had begun to wake. At first, people didn't understand what they were seeing. Was it a palace, a temple, a buried village? But the more they uncovered, the clearer it became. This was an entire Roman city, preserved, whole, silent, and everywhere, the marks of life. As archaeologists dug deeper, they found streets still paved with stone, homes with names carved into the doorways, murals painted in ochre and cobalt blue, bronze lamps, silver spoons, ink pots, dolls, rings still on the fingers of the dead. They uncovered wine shops, bakeries, bathhouses, gardens, and beneath the rubble, amphorae still sealed. Bread turned to charcoal, but whole. A final breakfast, frozen forever. Most haunting of all were the voids, spaces where bodies had once been. The ash had hardened around them, and the soft tissue within had vanished. What remained was shape, a moment, a shadow. Using plaster, archaeologists filled the hollow spaces, and human forms emerged, parents clutching children, a man shielding his face. A woman collapsed in a doorway, keys still in her hand. These casts became the face of Pompeii, not statues, not art, but memory made visible. The final breath of real people caught between worlds. Over the centuries, the city continued to unfold, layer by layer, building by building. Historians and tourists alike walked the same roads where chariots once rumbled, where voices once echoed. A living museum open to the sky. And yet even today, much of Pompeii remains unexcavated. There are entire districts still buried beneath the earth, places no one has seen in almost 2,000 years. The city is still dreaming. Rediscovery is not just about digging. It's about remembering, about listening, about standing very still and letting the past speak softly into the present. In Pompeii, time did not end. It folded. It waits in the cracks between stones, in the eyes of painted goddesses, in the lines of ancient graffiti. I was here. We were here. Don't forget us. Pompeii is more than a place. It is a pause in history, a single breath held forever. It is a city suspended, not in time, but in memory. When you walk its streets today, you walk alongside ghosts, not frightening, not screaming, just quiet, just watching, just waiting to be remembered. You might place your hand on a stone wall and know that someone stood there 2,000 years before you, laughing, crying, whispering to a friend. You might read the graffiti still scratched into the walls, crude and funny and strange, and realize they weren't so different. They loved, they feared, they left behind traces of themselves hoping to be known, hoping, maybe, to last. Pompeii is a story of endings, but also of survival. Not in the way we expect, not through fire or flight, but through ash, through stone, through memory, through us. When we tell their stories, they live again. The woman who never finished her letter, the boy who looked up at the mountain, the baker who left bread in the oven thinking he would return. They are not forgotten. Not now. Not tonight. Not while you're here, listening in the dark, letting the past settle softly into your dreams. So close your eyes, let the ash fall gently, like snow. Let the dust settle, let the stone speak, and if you listen, you just might hear it, the echo of a city that vanished and never truly left. Good night, and thank you for remembering with me.